Hello, this is Hannah Freeman from Davna House um, Ministries. Um, as you may all know, this is going to be a personal story about my childhood sexual abuse by my birth father and all that I went through with that. As for warning, it is about sexual abuse, and I would recommend that little children would not be around to listen to it as certain things are graphic and um, not be suitable for children. So if you want to go to a different room to listen to it or with headphones, I would recommend that. Um, but yeah, so um, growing up, I lived with my parents, and when I would go to school, I got bullied a lot and didn't have a lot of friends. I was severely bullied because of my weight, how I looked. Um, it was just a really bad time for school for me. Um, at home, I mean, my parents worked a lot. They worked at a nursing home. My mom still works at a nursing home to this day, the same one. So, I mean, while they would work, I would go to daycare or my grandma would watch me sometimes. But um, as I was growing up, I started to experiment with my body, meaning I would start touching myself to figure out, you know, certain things about it, I guess. Um, and sorry, um, my dad, um, he was a very quiet man. Would he would stick to himself a lot. He wasn't very talkative, and him and my mom just didn't really do a lot in their marriage. So they just kept to themselves a lot. Um, but it all started with um, I used to wet the bed a lot, and because of this, I guess my dad decided that he would use that as a abuse tactic. So he would. At the time, we lived in a mobile home. It was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath one. So my room was on one end, and their bedroom was on the opposite end. And I had a bathroom where the 2 bedrooms were, and then they had their own master bathroom. And the bathroom I had, I didn't like because it was full of ants and it was gross, and I just hated it. So I would often use their bathroom to take baths and showers. So when I would have um, bedwetting, he would put extremely hot water into the tub and fill it with just hot water, no cold, nothing. And he would tell me I need to get in and just sit in it. And the water would be so hot that it would scorch my body, and I would cry and just cry, and he didn't care. And after he said, "Well, after you get out, I'm gonna give you an ass whooping." So I would be scared of that, and after that, he would spank me for it, and I was very close to my mom. I rather be with my mom than him. I was a mama's girl and still am a mama's girl to this day. And before anybody judges her on certain timelines of my story, I want you to understand that it was a very unique and um, the circumstances um, were weird, I guess. I mean, the police didn't really do their job the way they were supposed to. So there was this one day that my mom was at work and my dad would. It was just me and my dad, and I guess I don't know what we were watching on TV one day, but I, being an 8 or 9 year old little girl, I asked, "What is sex?" And he's like, "You want me to show you?" And I said, "Yeah." And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe he's just gonna show me a video explaining, what sex is and what entails with sex and all them details and stuff that, it's weird for a little kid to ask her dad. And he took me into their bedroom and he told me to pull down my pants. And I did. And he told me to lay on their bed. And so I laid on their bed, and that's when he exposed his erect penis. And he told me to open my legs. And he didn't put it in my vagina area. He put it on the, I guess you could say butt area or whatever. It's kind of complicated, and I don't really want to go into much detail about it because it is gross, but he put it in that area, and he started to um, go in and out, and he asked me, "Does it feel good?" And I just kind of, shook my head. I don't know. And then he went a few more seconds, and then that was it. That was that. And my mom didn't know about it because I didn't tell her. I thought it was normal that a dad would touch his daughter like that. That, it's normal for a dad to have sex with their daughter like that. And um, there was another time where my mom would go into their room for bed, and me and him had this routine where we would hug, and me and him would hug, and he would put his hands around my breast area and start feeling around my nipple area and just groping it and feeling on it like I was a grown woman. And he treated me like I was his wife, and I'm thinking, well, maybe this is an accident. He didn't mean to. Maybe he was tired and he didn't know what he was doing. And then it started happening a couple more times. I said, yeah, this is not normal. And he will only do stuff when my mom wasn't around, either when she was at work or was going to bed or she was at friends. And that's when he would start doing that. And then there was another time, and it was just me and him again, and I was in the room. Well, before that, I was sitting in the living room, and I guess he was erect, and he wanted me to stroke his penis. And he would take my hand to put it on his penis and, allow me to stroke it. And then there were another time where it was just me and him in their bedroom, and he had his penis out fully erect, and he told me to suck on it. And I didn't know what oral meant. I didn't know what oral sex was. I didn't think that, in my mind, again, I thought it was normal, but I didn't technically put it in my mouth. I just, did that as if I was. And so, and then I would stroke it again. And all the stuff that he was doing to me, my mom had no idea that it was happening. And and the reason why I didn't tell her was because number one, they are married. She's my mom. I don't want to hurt her. I'm a kid. I don't want to, ruin their marriage or get him in trouble. I was scared. What do, and that's another thing that people need to realize. You're a child. If you are a child or you were a child who were abused by an adult, it is not your fault. You were that child. They are the adult. They need to take accountability for what they are doing. No child should be in danger because somebody wants to hurt them like that. And he was my dad, and he should have protected me. He should have been my dad. And because of that, he took advantage of that. He destroyed that relationship when he did what he did to me. And because of what he did, I will never have a relationship with him. Do I forgive him? Yes. But he damaged that relationship with me. And so if you are a child who feels guilty, or if you're afraid to tell somebody, please tell somebody, because you shouldn't have to go through that. And you should feel safe enough to tell somebody. Go to a trusted adult. Go to somebody you know. You know, you need to tell somebody because it is serious. And and it's not just something that you can just sweep under the rug or you could just forget about it, because to this day I am almost 24 years old, and that happened when I was, what, 8 or 9, and I'm still healing from everything that I've been through. All the abuse, the mental, emotional, physical, sexual abuse that I've suffered in my life. And I am still healing, but I hope that this story will help you to heal and to come to love yourself, but also come to realize that there is a God who loves you too. And I'm going to get into all that here in a minute. I just need to say that don't be afraid to tell somebody. If something doesn't seem right, if something feels off, if, something's not, you know, right, go to somebody. And and that's what I had to do. I had to tell somebody. And one day, and with all the abuse I was suffering, he, I don't think he cared. So I became really depressed. I felt dirty. And then I started getting anxiety. And one day I went to school, and I had a couple of friends. I had this guy friend, and I was like, I just have this serious thing that I need to get off my chest, and I don't know if I should say anything or not. He's like, well, you need to. Excuse me. And, if it's bothering you that much, then you need to go tell somebody. So I said, okay. So this class I had, um, I'm not going to mention her name, but um, she was a really good teacher, and I really trusted her. And um, it was my reading and writing class. And after class, I had a piece of paper and I wrote, "My dad touches me," and I gave it to her. As I didn't want to tell her out loud. And she looked at it, she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know what this means. He's just touching me. I don't know what to tell an adult. I didn't know what to say to her. I don't know how to admit my dad's abusing me. I just knew at the time what to say, and it seemed like he's touching me. Maybe they wouldn't make it a big deal. But as a child, you don't realize when you tell an adult something very serious like that, how serious it really is. So I said, please don't say nothing. This is serious. I don't want him to get in trouble. I don't want him to get mad at me or spank me. He was the type that would spank me for the littlest things. If I wet the bed, at the time my mom had lizards and I accidentally let them out and I got a spanking for it. And my mom's like, it wasn't even a big deal, but he treated it as I deserved to get spanked for it. I deserved to get punished for that, just like with the bedwetting. And I was always fearful to wet the bed, because if I wet the bed, that meant I would have to be put in scorching hot water and spanked afterwards. And that's what he would do. And so I went to my next class, and it was music class. And when I was there maybe about 5 to 10 minutes, and then the intercom at school, and they said Heather, because at the time my birth name is technically Heather, and I go by Hannah for reasons. And they said, Heather, can you come to the counselor office? I'm like, great, what do I do now? So I go there, and the teacher I told about that I wrote on a piece of paper and gave to, she was there crying a little bit, and I said, what's going on? My counselor's like, well, can you sit down? Your teacher, um, I'm gonna call her Miss Burke for obvious reasons. Miss Burke um, gave me something that looked really concerning, and I just want to talk to you about that. And so I said, okay. And she said, so what's going on? Is everything okay? And Miss Burke is sitting next to me, and she's looking at me, and I'm thinking, why did this woman say anything? And that's when I went into the truth and told them what was going on at home. And then all of a sudden, Miss Burke started crying. And the counselor, Miss, I'm not going to name her real name, but I'm going to call her Miss Sylvester. Miss Sylvester um, said, well, that's serious. And I said, please don't, I hope I'm not in trouble. And, if he finds out, he's going to get mad. And she's like, did he ever threaten you? I said, no, he's not. He never threatened me, but he would get mad. And she said, okay, well, we're going to have to call the police, and you're going to have to talk to the police about it. I'm like, why? She said, because this is serious, Heather. You're telling us that somebody who's supposed to protect you is putting you in danger and is doing something to you that's not good and it's not safe, and you need to talk to somebody about that. And I said, so what are you going to tell my parents? One way or another, they're going to find out what's going on. And she's like, well, I'll just call there and leave a message and say, Heather has to stay back and she has to take a test. And I said, okay. So that's when they called the police, and they took me into this little room, and they interviewed me and asked me questions, the same questions, and I told them everything. And they said, well, we're going to have to go to your house, and we're going to have to speak to him, and because it's not safe for you to be in the same home as with him, we're going to have to, he's going to have to go somewhere. And I said, okay, I guess I didn't know what that meant. So I waited a couple more hours at school, and they went to the house. I don't know what all happened. Um, my mom later told me everything, and they said, well, you can go home. He's gone now. And so I went home with the police officer in the back of the police car, and I got home, and my mom and her friend was there. Her name is Barbara. I'm gonna call her Barbara for obvious reasons, but Barbara, she was there with my mom, and my mom asked me like, what's going on? Like the police were here, and they were asking uh, your dad. I'm not gonna name his name either, and he knows who he is, and if he's watching, yes, this is about you. What you did to me was. I'm not going to get into detail how I feel, because I feel like that should be between me and you. But if you're watching this, then yes, I am going to tell what you did to me. And you've hurt me. And you need to own up to it. But um, I told my mom, and she's like, well, I was never home. I said, Mom, he wouldn't do it when you were around. Or if you were around, you would be in the room. And Barbara said, well, show us what he did. So I said, okay. So I went to their room. I got into the same position that he had me, and I said, Mom, come here, and come in between my legs so I could show her what he would do. Either it was my mom or Barbara. I think it was Barbara I showed it to, and I had Barbara reenact what he did, and she just, I guess you could say, shocked. And my mom, I mean, she didn't really show emotion. I think she was just confused. She didn't, you know, maybe at the time she didn't know what to say. But the area we were at, um, the mobile home park, we had neighbors that were very violent when they were drunk or high and they had guns. And my mom didn't feel safe by herself with me because, he's my dad and he was always the one to protect us. So I guess she felt like, she needed him to be there so he could protect us. And because of that, I had to leave. And so I got interviewed. His mom and my mom took me for an interview so I could repeat my story again. And this time, I said he didn't do it. I made it up. I I don't know why I did. And they said, so he never touched her. I said, nope, I just made it up. I don't know why I made it up, I just did. And at the time, I didn't understand why I lied about it. I don't understand why I said he didn't do it when clearly he did. And they knew that I was lying about it. And that's why I never went to court. I never testified against him because of that, because they told me I wouldn't be a good witness for it. I'm a little kid. All this is happening so fast. I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. Nobody's really telling me anything. I'm just scared, and, I feel like I'm getting people in trouble. At the same time, I love this man who I call my dad, and, I'm telling all the stuff that he's doing that's wrong, and I feel like I'm the villain in this. And I know now that I'm not the villain. I had to do what I had to do, and I'm still working on that. I'm still trying to forgive myself for that. But after all that, my mom and grandma left, and they told me that if you didn't have family to stay with, then you're possibly going to have to go in the system. So they called family to see if I could live with them until they can investigate stuff, to get everything um, figured, like what's going on, and run some tests or whatever investigators are supposed to do. And none of my family said they could take me in, either because of old age and health, or they just didn't have the room. And because of that, I entered a system at 13 years old. And the first family I lived with, I'm not going to name their names. There's a lot of people I'm not going to name. I'm just going to come up with names for them for privacy reasons, but they would know who they are. But I lived with the Franks for about 6 months, and it was a wife and husband, and they have about 3 kids. And I lived with them for about 6 months, and then that's when I started getting acquainted with them and getting familiar with living with them. And I had a casa worker named Brooke, and she was in my life for 6 years. And one day I was told by Cindy um, that I had to leave because they were expecting another baby, and I guess it wasn't enough room. So I had to go into a 30-day emergency placement, and so I left. And I just want to clarify, when I was living with them, I was still allowed visits with my mom. I was allowed 1 hour of supervised visits. I was to have no contact with my dad. I was not allowed to have supervised visits with him. I was only allowed to see her, and that was only for an hour with my caseworker or some person from the system to be there for the visit. And there was like one or twice that Cindy would be with the in the meeting with my visit, due to my caseworker either being in a meeting and she couldn't make it, or they just needed somebody to supervise it. So either Cindy or somebody would do it. And then after living with this family, one family for 30 days, they found another placement, foster home for me. And it was a single, I guess, foster mom. She wasn't married, but she had other children and foster children there. And um, she was just very mean. She she was the type that you weren't allowed in the living room. You had to be in the room at all times unless school, church, outings, caseworker, anything that's either school related or something that you were doing. Otherwise, you had to be in the room. I ate dinner in the room. I sat in a room with two other girls. It's a small room. I wasn't allowed no more of 5 minutes for a shower. And I just became really depressed. And while living there, that's when they started had a peep. She started had a foster girls come in to check on me to see if I was washing myself to make sure I was clean. You know, that's a vulnerable time for me. Anybody who's in the shower and you're making somebody go in there just to see if you are cleaning yourself, looking at every single detail, I felt nasty, dirty. I just I just felt like, maybe I deserved that. Maybe I felt, maybe I'm dirty, maybe they think I'm gross. And that's why she did what she did. And the foster girl's like, I'm not doing this to look at you like that. I'm just doing what our foster mom told us to do. And I'm sorry that I am doing it. And I just said, okay, I understand. And so I told my CASA worker, Cindy, um, this is what's going on. And being in foster care, I became suicidal a lot. Um, I was hospitalized for 10 plus times. More times than I'd like to admit. There was multiple times where I actually attempted, almost succeeded. Um, it was just, I was very depressed and I had a lot of anxiety. And after I lived with her, I went into um, my, I guess you could say, fourth family. And I lived with them from middle school to senior year. I lived with them. And they it was consisted of a husband and wife, and they had three adult children. One was married and he had his own family. They had their other son and daughter who had disabilities and was unable to communicate and talk to you, and she needed a caretaker to take care of her 24/7, and she goes to adult daycare and all that. But I lived with them from middle school to high school, and so she had a caretaker that would come 5 days a week, um, and would just sit with her and bathe her and then go home after. And excuse me, in the beginning, I would say maybe the first 1 or 2 years, it was, I would say, pretty decent living with them. Um, but then after my foster mom would get sick, that's when she went downhill. And I want to reiterate, there was also other foster kids that they would take into. Um, about maybe 4 or 5 different kids, maybe. Um, one was a sibling. It was an older girl and her little sister. And then I had one foster sister who, if you look her up, um, she's in the Wikipedia because of her situation, and um, I don't want to disclose her information, but she's a very dear, close friend of mine, and um, if you're seeing this, I hope that you're doing okay, and I hope that you're getting your situation and you heal from it, and that your situation heals too soon, and that I miss you, and I just hope that you're doing okay. But she was a really sweet foster sister of mine, and she was in high school, but she went to a private school at the time. Um, she um, wasn't really at the house a lot because it was just so chaotic. You know, the foster mom had grandkids, and she was dealing with a lot of stuff. Her illnesses, her cancer that she got 2 times. So she was just physically drained from all the chemo that she went with that. And, it just seemed like after that, it just went downhill. And she just started becoming mean and really hateful towards me. And she just, she would just make up stuff that wasn't even real. Um, there was a couple instances where she would just come up with the strangest, outlandish stories, and I would question my friend about it, and she's like, it's not even true. And, I just didn't know. So sorry for the noise. We have somebody doing cutting the grass in our apartment, so I am sorry about the noise in the background. But I loved her. I did. It's just after that, she became very hateful, and living with them, I was hospitalized 6 plus times for suicide because of, the caretaker would call me a bitch and tell me that I need to get over what my father did to me, that I just need to get over it. I just, she was just very ignorant, and I'm like, you're not even here for me. She would bully me a lot, and I would tell my foster parents about it, and they overlooked it. They didn't care. They said, "Well, stop antagonizing her," and I said, "I'm not antagonizing her. She just is mean, and you're not seeing it." And it just went downhill with them. And since living with them, I kept a secret about the foster dad watching porn when he would go downstairs, and I never told anybody until um, something happened. I guess I just finally wanted to. But for 4 years while living with them, I've will witness him watching porn in front of me after paying bills. And I think he knew that I would be there. He just would still watch it. And clearly, you can hear somebody having sex, and you're doing that in front of a kid. So there's something going on with that picture. Um, but just living with them, it became a nightmare. It was getting unbearable, and I developed a friendship with this one girl, and she to she's no longer with us anymore, but she passed away due to sickle cell, and she was a good best friend to me, and I miss her every single day. And but she would be there for me. I was at her house almost every weekend. I will always look forward to going to her house to hang out, and we would watch scary movies, talk about boys, normal girl stuff. We had this show called iCarly that we would reenact, her little brother would pretend to be Freddy and stuff and just hold the camera. And I would be Carly and she would be Sam, and we just reenact it. And I miss her. And, you know, she was the only genuine friend I ever had. And now that she's gone, it's not the same. But she became a light in my life that I needed. And her death was kept a secret from me by my foster family that I was living with. And I felt like they used that as a way to torment me. Um, I guess another tactic for abuse. Um, it was close to my birthday, either in August or something. I don't remember, but I knew it was definitely close to my birthday, and I guess a couple months back I contacted her, or was trying to, and her dad picked up and he said, well, she can't come to the phone. He said, I want to talk to your foster dad. I said, okay. And, I'm assuming that, well, maybe she's not feeling well. So I handed the phone to my foster dad, and I don't know what was said. Um, he wanted to talk to him, and I'm assuming that he told my foster dad that she passed away. But I was never told until close to my birthday. And I would question them all the time. I'm like, so what's going on with Lexi? I haven't talked to her. What's going on? And they would just shake it off. And then there was times where I would walk in and I knew they were discussing about her. And as soon as I would walk in, they would like hush up real fast. Like it was a secret that they were even mentioning her, and everybody knew. That's the messed up part. Everybody knew that she passed away, but for some reason they refused to tell me about it. That was my best friend. I hung out with her. I had that right. And you kept that secret. And one day they told me, we need to talk to you, Heather. And they took me into my bedroom and they sat me on my bed. And that's when they revealed that Lexi passed away due to her sickle cell. And with that, she had a bone marrow transplant to, I guess, possibly cure it. But I guess something happened with her bone marrow that she developed another sickness, and I guess that's what ultimately possibly made her pass away. And after hearing that she passed away, it just something killed something inside of me. This girl that came into my life was not only my best friend, but she was like my sister that I've always wanted. We were close like that. We were hanging out almost every weekend. She was like my sister. She was my best friend. I could tell her anything. She saw me when I almost attempted suicide because of all the pain I went through with living with this family and my life. And she stopped me from overdosing on pills before. And she calmed me down, and that's something that I didn't want her to see because she was going through pain in her life, but she pushed that aside to be my friend, and for that I'll forever be grateful. And after she passed away, it's like that killed something inside of me. You know, she was my best friend, and yet she's no longer here now because she's gone. And so I just started crying. I cried and cried and I screamed. And, you know, growing up, I believed in God. And, you know, I grew up in a Baptist church. And, you know, for a long time, after dealing with that, there was this one day I came to, I guess you could say, a crossroad in my life. And I started getting angry with God. I said, you know, God, why'd you allow this? And I questioned God. I got mad and I said, I'm just done. You don't care about me anyway, so what do you want with me? And I walked away. And that's the thing. I walked away. God never left. God never left me. I left him. I decided that. And so I went down a path that I shouldn't have. But it's in my past, and, you know, am I proud of it? No. But it happened, and now I'm going to use this as glory to him because he saved my life. He changed my life. And this path I went to, I decided to go because I felt like men didn't love me. I felt like they wanted to hurt me. I started getting attracted to women, and I was in the LGBT community, and I was in a relationship with another woman. I we never did anything like that. I mean, only kissing or whatever, but it wasn't really not good anyway. It was kind of bad in the first place, but I was never into drugs or drinking. I um, was only into LGBT. Um, I guess you could say I listened to a lot of heavy metal kind of music, a lot of rap, angry music, um, stuff that I wouldn't really want to listen to now. I mean, I listened to it just to see like why I would listen to it. I'm like, I don't even know why I listened to this in the first place, but it was more like I was drowning, and um, I felt like I was drowning in my own anger and my pain, and I didn't know how else to let it out. And I just started listening to more angry music. I stopped going to church. I I wouldn't say I was atheist or agnostic. I just kind of stopped going to church. I believed in God. I just didn't want to serve him anymore because of my situation. Um, and there was this one day where um, I had a lot of arguments with this foster family. I would argue and I would start getting more angry and I would lash out. I would lash out at my foster brother a lot for no reason and just to lash out. And I became very angry. And that's something to this day I still need to work on. Um, I would say it's gotten a little bit better, but back then it was just, you wouldn't even want to be around me because I was just angry. And I was angry at my father. I was angry at the system. I was angry at my mom, my family, because they didn't believe me. I had no one on my side at the time until my mom revealed stuff that happened. Um, and then one day I said, and I just can't do it. And my foster mom, she said, if you want to kill yourself, I will give you a knife so you can go kill yourself. Just don't do it in my house, though. Won't you do it somewhere where it's not in my house? Why would you even say that? You're supposed to be a caring person who is supposed to protect me, yet you're telling me I'll allow you to kill yourself, but don't just do it in my house because I don't want to be responsible for it. And one day I listened to it and I took a razor in my bathroom while I was showering, and you can't really see the scar, but um, I cut my wrist right here, close to the vein, and I just all of a sudden started crying real hard while the blood was just running down my arm, and I started to just cry and scream, and I said, God, just take this away, take this pain away. I can't do it. You know, if I'm allowed to live, then let me live. But if not, then just take away this pain, this burden. I just can't. And I tell you, at that moment, God took away that pain. And you know, I know people are gonna say this sounds crazy, but God spoke to me. He said, "I'm here. I haven't left you. I will never leave you. I love you." And that just made me cry. And it was such a peace that I wanted to feel for so long, to be reminded that despite me screwing up and abandoning him and all that, he still loved me. He still cared about me. And that's when I decided, I want to change my life. I want to start going back to church. And I started going to two different churches, and I would go to youth group and in the two different churches in the morning or whatever. Um, and that's when I would start meeting friends, and then that's when I found my first foster mom that I lived with. Go to one of the churches I would go to for youth group, and that's how we reconnected again. And I told her what was going on, and I reported my foster dad that he was watching porn, and they said, well, you can come live with us. And I started contacting her, and this is when I'm about 17, maybe 18 at the time, and that's when I lived with my first foster family again for the second time. And I lived with them um, from October to maybe March or April, February, March, April at the time. And I was supposed to finish high school my senior year living with them. That was the promise and plan that I was going to do. And another thing, that how I feel about promises, I was promised by the other family that when I graduate, my present was going to be go to Florida and go to Disney World or whatever. And they had it all planned out. They knew that this is what I wanted to do, and they promised it to me, and they made it seem like it was going to happen, and it turned out that no, we don't want to take you because we don't know how you will react. And it just hurt. It hurt me because it was something that I wanted to do for myself. I wanted to do that. And the family that I lived with the first time did the exact same thing to me, and they started treating me differently. They felt like I didn't help around the house, even though I would go to high school every single day full time. I worked a job, I went to church, I helped as much as I could, and still yet they were still ungrateful. And the mom was just, you need to help more. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I'm like, I go to school every single day early. I go to work. I do what I can. I don't have time for myself. And yet you're still complaining that I don't do nothing. And your daughter just is mean and just sits in her room or whatever she does while her husband works. And it seems like he don't have a backbone for himself. And she just ran everything. And they blamed me for a lot of stuff. And they did a lot of stuff. I knew that I could get angry. And I admitted that I was in the wrong for that. But not once did they ever apologize for how they talked to me, how they treated me. And one day, she, we went to Wisconsin. It was a Christmas present, and we went to Wisconsin. The whole family did, and she got injured doing some snowboarding thing there, and I guess she sprained her ankle, and so she had to have surgery. And we got back home, and that's when it just everybody had to pitch in to help. She couldn't really do nothing, and she had to walk with the walker because she sprained her ankle. She had to have surgery, I guess. And I contacted my mom because I asked for Facebook. I'm 18 years old. I want Facebook. I'm an adult. And she said, yeah. And so as soon as I created a Facebook page, I looked for my mom. I looked her up and I found her. I found her phone number. I put her phone number in my phone. And I put mom as the contact. My foster mom, I had mom too. Um, and that's probably where I got mixed up with what happened with the text. But um, I started, at first, um, I sent the text to my birth mom. And I meant to send it to my foster mom because at the time there was something going on where um, I tried overdosing with one of my pills and it scared her, and she was giving it to me for a minute until she could trust me, but I would have to tell her that, I took it. And I had to be supervised for a minute with that situation, but I contacted my birth mom and I accidentally I took my drugs. I don't know why I put that. I didn't want to take pills, but I called it drugs because, it is drugs to me. I didn't want to be on it. I felt like I was getting drugged, so I took my drugs. And I meant to send it to my birth mom. Well, I had mom in my contact too, my birth mom, and it sent to her. I'm like, oh crap, I think I sent it to the wrong person. And so my mom contacted me. She's like, is this Heather? Well, I didn't answer. And so she had her other friend, Charlotte, contact her. Told her other friend Charlotte, can you call this number? Because I think this is Heather. And she's like, okay. So I guess she star 69 my number, and me, I have a answering machine on my voicemail, so it said my name and phone number, and it sounds just like me. She's like, yeah, this is your daughter Heather. She's like, oh wow, it is. And so they start contacting me, and at first, I think at the time I contacted her cousin first, and I was telling her about the situation, me being in foster care, what my dad did, and I said, you know, I haven't talked to my mom. And she's like, well, your mom and your grandma really want to talk to you. You know, they miss you. They're worried about you. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, they think you're kidnapped or something. Like, I'm like, really? I'm like, they know I'm in foster care. They said, she said, well, you need to contact your grandma because she really wants to hear from you. And that's when I started talking to my birth mom again. And to this day, I don't regret it. I don't feel guilty because I had that right. I was 18 years old. I haven't seen my mom since they took me away. What they did was unexcusable. They kept a lot of stuff from her. They didn't even tell her that I would go to different foster homes. They never even contacted her on that. They didn't even tell her where I was or where I was living when I would change foster homes. So wasn't even aware where I was at the time. And because of me contacting my birth mom, my foster mom got mad and she decided while I'm at school, she's going to go behind my back and go downstairs to where I was sleeping in the basement, pack half my stuff, and go back into her room to act like, oh, I'm so injured. I got injured and I can't do nothing. And I had to find out after getting home that most of my stuff was packed. And I said, why did you pack my stuff? And she just came up with a sorry excuse, saying that it's just too much, that she can't handle everything and whatever. I knew it was about me contacting my mom, and even my caseworker said she knew it was going to happen. She knew that you were 18 years old, that you were eventually going to want to talk to your birth mom or try to find her and talk to her. She knew it was going to happen, and my foster mom didn't like it. She didn't like the fact that I contacted my mom. She didn't like it that I wanted to even talk to her again. I think in her mind that I should have just let her go. And you know what? Shame on her for feeling that way. Shame on her for all the lies that she put in my head, for all those foster people who put lies in my head saying that my mom never loved me. My mom did love me. You all just didn't care. You all just didn't care about me. So don't even act like you guys care, because you don't. And I hope that whoever's watching this, and if you are watching this, that you know who you are. But I also want you to know that I have forgiven you. But what you did to my family, keeping secrets from my mom, not telling her where I was, saying that she was a bad mom, that was not right. And that still hurts her to this day. We are still building this relationship that you all stole from us because you all didn't want to do nothing to stop it. You didn't lock him up. You didn't put him behind bars. And I know that I changed the story, but if you all knew I was lying, then why didn't you lock him up? If you all knew that he was guilty, why didn't you do your job? And for the investigator who decided that you're going to question my mom's brother to ask him if he wants to be an investigator, that was very ignorant and hateful. And I'm sorry and I'm getting angry, but talking about this, it's bringing up a lot of pain. But it's something that needed to be done. I needed to talk about this because this is me. This is the real me. This is what you're gonna get. I'm not this perfect girl who had a perfect life. I'm not gonna post on social media that I've done all these wonderful things. I'm not knocking people who do. But for those who got to know me, who knew to me, And for those who think that they know me, you have no idea where I came from, how long I've fought for this life I've had since going through abuse, what God has brought me from. And when I contacted my mom and started talking to her, and I asked her friend, her other friend, can I live with you? Because I don't want to be in a foster home. And I talked to my caseworker about it, and she's like, no, because your mom could visit you, and we don't want that. And I'm like, well, I'm 18 years old, so you can't stop that. So don't even try to stop me from seeing my mom. So, and then they couldn't find another foster home. And she said, well, we decided that you can go live with your mom's friend, and we're thinking about closing your case. This is around 2019. And after hearing that, um, at the time, I got kicked out of the foster home. I went into a shelter for about a month, and that was a very hard time. Um, I was getting bullied left and right. I had one girl who just didn't like me for whatever reason, just throw a shoe at me. And I was at the point, I'm like, if you just want to beat me up, go ahead. I don't even care. She threw a shoe at me, and she started hitting me. And another girl just was a bully too, big girl, bullied me. And she filled up about a bottle as big as this, full of water, and just threw it in my face. And I didn't do nothing to none of these people at the shelter. And not once did my foster mom come to check on me, call me, ask how I was doing. But before I left, she said, "I'm here for you. If you want to talk, we can talk. I'm here for you. I care about you." And I'm sitting there saying, "You don't care about me. You got mad that I talked to my birth mom. You went behind my back to pack half the stuff that I had because you couldn't handle that I was talking to my birth mom. You were mad at me. So why would I contact you?" I never even contacted her after I left. And after I left the shelter, I moved in with my mom's friend, and they were discussing, we want to close the case, and they wanted me to get a job, and they wanted my mom to find a bigger place so I could live with her, and that's when they would close the case. And well, I got a job, and I started going over to my mom's apartment that she lives at now, and my caseworker's like, we don't want her to live here, but I know it's going to happen anyway. And, there's only so much I can really do at this point because she is 18. So I'm not going to really stop it. So I started staying over at my mom's place. When she first saw me and I saw her, it was very emotional. We both cried. We hugged each other. I felt I was finally at home. Yes, I was still in the system, but at the moment I forgot about it because I saw my mom again. I got to hug my mom, and you know, I was happy. And that's when my caseworker was discussing the rules with my mom's friend, with, what she had to do so I can live there. And that's when, after she left, or she was still there, my mom revealed to me that my grandpa, two of my grandpas, and my uncle passed away while I was in the system. So I've lost most of my family while being in the system, and that's when I lost. I'm like, that's not true. He's not dead. She's like, yeah, he is, which is my mom's brother. Um, and he passed away. He basically had a heart attack, and my brother was living with them at the time, and he was on the couch, and all of a sudden he had a heart attack, and he fell to the ground, and my brother watched it, and he passed away. Um, it was very hard hearing all that. It was hard hearing that most of my family passed away, and I wasn't even here to say goodbye. And I just cried, and I just couldn't believe it, and I just was sad. Um, but um, after that, me and my mom, a lot of my anger came out, and I started getting angry with my mom a lot. We would fight almost every day or every other day. I would just go off the deep end to her. I would just call her horrible names out of anger. I mean, I was just really hurt. You were married to this man for, you took this man's side over me. And I said, why? Why did you? And she said, I just didn't believe it. I don't know why I didn't believe it. I said, well, you should have. I was your daughter and you believed him over me. And I just felt hurt. I felt mad. And that's when she revealed that um, the day that the police interviewed me, they came to the mobile home and they just all stood in a circle in the middle of the road, and they're as if they were discussing something, I guess, what to do. And then um, they saw it and they're like, "What's going on?" And then they come and knock, and the police didn't have no warrant. They didn't have no search warrant, no nothing, and they just asked the man who I accused of, and they said, we have got a report that your daughter went to school to say that you were touching her, and all he had to say was, what? She said, what? And my mom just looked at him and said, what'd you do? He said, I didn't do nothing. And that's when they said, well, do you have somewhere to go? And he said, yeah, I guess I'll go to my mom's. They didn't arrest him or nothing. You would think that police would arrest somebody who's been accused of hurting a child. Not only that, but they didn't have no warrant. They didn't have no arrest. They just let him go. They didn't care. And so after that, she told me that after that just went downhill. The foster parents always said to her, why does Heather eat with her fingers? I eat chicken with my fingers. You know, I've always done that. Or she don't know how to cut with a knife. I had to cut her food for her because she don't know how to do it. And my mom's like, my mom, Heather knows how to cut her food. Maybe she just don't want to. The other foster mom said, "What do you do when somebody pees in a bed?" And right in front of the people on my case, and my mom's like, you take the sheets off the bed, put everything in the washer, do what you, and clean it, and then put it back on. And all the foster moms like, oh, okay. Like, what was the purpose of you doing that? To embarrass my mom? And ever since I've been home, in the beginning, it was a lot of fights. And I reached out to the old foster mom I lived with before going back home, and she made up this lie saying, well, you said something to my daughter and you really hurt her. And I said, what did I say? She said, I don't know, but you need to figure it out. And I said, I never contacted you after I left to go into the shelter. I wasn't even allowed to have contact. I couldn't even have my phone. And the only people I would contact is my mom, or, I was dating a couple of guys at the time and I had a boyfriend. And I said I would contact my boyfriend or my mom. And she just made up a lie about it, saying I said something to her daughter and it wasn't even true. And um, I came back home in 2019. So after that, I lived with my mom for 2 years, and then um, at the time, I had a couple of boyfriends, and um, and one in foster care, two in foster care. One was kind of um, he had autism. Another one I didn't really want to be with, but I was kind of forced into it, just like with the other one. And I never really wanted to have sex with the boys that I was with, but they were into wanting to have sex with me, and I was like, no. And after I came back home with my mom, I had a boyfriend, and he took me to a park, and it was secluded, and it was a hot day, the sun's beating on me, and I'm like, well, I need to lay down because I'm starting to get a headache, and he took it as I wanted sex somehow, and I had to push him off, and I think he was gonna have sex with me that day, even though I didn't want it, and he wasn't very good anyway, and we broke up, so I started going on dating sites, and most of them just wanted me for sex. They didn't want me because I was a virgin still at the time. Um, but I lived with my mom for 2 years, and it was good, but it was also hell because there was a lot of fights on my end because of what happened. And there was just things that she told me. She said, I'm sorry that I never believed you. I'm sorry that I didn't take your side over his. I took his side over yours. And now we're at a good place in our relationship. I mean, it's a lot better. We've come a long way, but I'm still healing from all that. Um, in 2021, I met the guy that I'm with now, and we've been married for 3 years. And I've told him my story, and he's been really supportive in everything that I want to do to help anybody who's been in my situation. And he's even encouraged me to make a video to talk about what happened. And hopefully soon I will start this ministry where I help abused men and women. But I want them to also know that I couldn't have gone through what I went through without God. God, this is for his glory, this is for his honor, and you know I've debated over the years, should I make a video or not, and today was the day that I did. And it's been hard. Um Being married, you have your ups and downs, you have your doubts. I've been cheated on before. I said some things to my husband that, it's part of my insecurity, but despite all that, he still loves me, and I love him. Um, but this is the real me. This is my story. Um, this is what I had to go through. I have no contact with my birth father. He wants nothing to do with me. He don't think that he did anything wrong. Um, and most of the stuff that I did mention is not even half of it. There's still more to it. It's just if I would have gone on and on, it probably would have taken more than 1 hour or so to even talk about most of the stuff that would happen to me. But there's wounds that are I'm still healing from. Um, and I know you're all going to ask, have I tried therapy? Yes, I've tried therapy. I've tried different things, and none really helped. My therapy is God. He is my source of peace and joy. He has been there since day one. Um, excuse me. Um, he's been my firm foundation. Um, I couldn't have gone through what I went through without him. And I know people have their beliefs on God or who helps them through their trials. And, I can't go through life without God. I can't go through um, life without God. And my family is still healing from the trauma. My mom is still healing. She is still um, trying to find herself. And she's trying to forgive herself for her part on not forgiving or not taking my side over his. Um, if any, I mean, I know people are going to ask, is he still out there? Yes, he is still out there. And I personally don't know where he's at. He is not in jail. Um, there was a whole investigation when I did report it, but they said that there was no evidence on where it happened. Um, there was nothing that they could have found that he did what he did because he didn't do it to me the way that you would think that somebody would penetrate somebody. He didn't penetrate me in my vagina area. I was never unvirginalized. I was penetrated a different way where there was possibly no evidence, where people wouldn't think to invest or test me. I was never tested for anything. Um, so there's really no evidence on him even touching me. But the funny thing that my mom have always told me was every time she would mention my name, he would just sweat really bad. And I said, well, would it be hot? She's like, he wouldn't be sweating any other time, but as soon as I would mention your name, he would just sweat. And he would always say that if if you want her home, then I have to leave. And my mom's like, why you have to leave? And he would always say, because they told me to. And she's like, you shouldn't have to leave. Why aren't you fighting for your innocence if you didn't do it? And that's another thing. He never fought for his innocence. He was supposed to, you know, you would think that if somebody didn't do something to a child, they would do everything they can to fight to prove their innocence, and he never did. All he would do was leave my mom. He would always accuse her of cheating. He would go up to the job and start flirting with women. He even kissed another woman. He would make up lies saying that my mom was pregnant with a different man. He told my brother about and a girl that he really liked, and he told my brother, I'm gonna have sex with all these women, but I'm gonna save the virgin for last. And this girl's probably in her late 20s. And you're telling my brother that you're gonna unvirginize a girl who has a dad that's overprotective. It's like her dad saying, I'm gonna have sex with all these women, but I'm gonna save the virgin for last. What normal person says that? And he even told people, I want to line all these women up and stick my penis in their butts and all that. And he would just make sexual comments to women. And he would say that my mom was the cheater, she was doing all that. What I'm saying with my mom, I am not excusing it. I'm not erasing that she was talking to another man on text. She feels guilty about that. She said I should have just divorced him. I should have been woman enough to end it. She said I just got infatuated by another man because my husband was accusing me of cheating. He was doing all this stuff behind my back, and I didn't feel loved by him anymore. She said I didn't have you for 6 years. I lost so many years with you. She said I was depressed. And she said, but I got through it with God's help. And, it reminds me that I went through this, but I did it with God's help. And I couldn't have done it without Him. I couldn't have gone through the life I was dealt with without Him. This man, he damaged my innocence. He took away this innocence that I will never ever get back now because of him being selfish, and he took advantage of that. And God knows what else he did when I was little. I don't know if he touched me if I was little. I never wanted to be around him. My mom said I would act different when he was around me. Like I would cry more. I guess I was just different when he was around. But yes, he is still out in the world. And as far as possibly testifying against him or doing anything with that situation, I don't know. Do I want to testify against him? Part of me, yes. A part of me, no. I want justice. I didn't get the justice that I felt I deserved. But I know vengeance belongs to God. And God will decide what He sees fit. And I'm not going to go around trying to justify what He did because it's not that. Do I forgive him? Yes, I do forgive him. Do I still have anger against him? Yes. He has broken me to the point where I am still trying to pick up pieces from my life. I am still trying to figure out who I am. I'm still trying to love myself and not blame myself for what he did. But I also know where my identity is found in, and it's in God, and it's not in this world. Because this world has nothing to offer to me, it has nothing to give me. My hope is in God, my faith is in God, and that's it. And that's not going to be a debate. I'm not going to debate anybody on that. So if that's something that you feel like you lost your relationship with God, then I pray that God will heal your heart from whatever wanted you to run away from Him. Because God never left you. You just left Him. And that's what I did a long time ago. I decided to leave Him because I was hurt, because I felt abandoned, and I didn't feel like He loved me. And He has promised me so many things in my life. And before I even got married, He even spoke to me what was going to happen in my life. And it came to pass. And He is still revealing stuff for my life that is still to come to pass. And I believe it will. But um, I have changed over the years. Um, I'm trying to better my life for myself. Um, I'm hoping one day, as mentioned, yes, my birth name is Heather, but one day I will want to change it to Hannah officially. Um, it's just something that I don't want anything to do with Heather anymore. I know people will always remember me as Heather, but if you're somebody who knows me as Heather, I would like to ask you to respectfully call me Hannah. I know legally I am not Hannah, but I would like to be called Hannah. And if you can't respect that, then I don't know, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to please you to um, make you feel happy that you have to call me Heather because I don't go by Heather anymore. Legally, I have to go by Heather because it's legally my name. So, in important situations, I have to go by Heather, unfortunately. But I would like to be called Hannah because it's something that I am changing my name to heal from what he did to me as Heather. I don't identify as Heather, the girl who was abused, who had all this pain and open wounds, but some girl who's the same me is just with a different name. That is my new beginning. That is my new chapter in my life. That is something that I want to go forward in for my life. I want to start my new chapter and heal from what happened to me. Yes, I cannot erase what happened to me. That is always going to be a part of me. And because it's a part of me, I want to use it as God's way of helping others who have been through it and telling them that God loves them and that if God can bring me through it, if God can take away all the bitterness, all the sadness, all the hatred, all the pain that you've been through that He did for me, He can do it for you. God's not going to just leave you in that. God's just not going to let you suffer through what you're going through. Yes, it may seem that he is, but he's not. Because he's going to see you through it. And, you may feel like he has abandoned you, and he didn't. He loves you more than you could ever think or imagine. And I had to realize that. And to this day, I still struggle with the thought that God loves me. He still cares about me. He wants what's best for me. And I still struggle with that. And He reveals it to me all the time that He does. It's just I gotta have faith that He does. And I gotta be reminded. And, I really hope that this helps people who watch this, that you're not alone. I went through it. And that God loves you, and I do too. And if we don't know each other, that's okay, because I still love you. You're still a human who has feelings. I didn't have this perfect life. And I have compassion on those who've been through what I've been through. And I'm going to fight so hard to help anybody who's been through it. And that's why I'm going to start this ministry soon to counsel men and women who've been through abuse, by allowing me to share this story, my story, with you all, so you know what I went through, and to say, look, she went through, and look how strong she is. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't feel strong, and to this day I still don't. I'm not strong. I was a mess. I was broken. I am still picking up pieces from my life. I am still healing. It has not gone away completely. I still get triggered a lot. I still have depression and anxiety. I still have thoughts of suicide sometimes. I don't act on it, but I found coping skills to help me not to become overwhelmed or to have thoughts of suicide or anxiety. And if I feel that way, then my husband would, if he knows me so well that if I even do something that's concerning, he would question me until I would tell him. You need to have somebody who's going to be concerned for you, who loves you and is patient. I'm not saying he's perfect, because he's not, just like I'm not. And every day we learn something new about each other. But he is the first man I've ever been with that genuinely, truly cares about me, who loves God just like I do, who has been there through the worst of my episodes, the worst of my times of anger and doubts and sadness, and he's stuck by me. And I haven't felt that in a very long time. And I still ask him, why me? Why do you want me so much? I'm just this broken girl who has all these problems. And despite all what I went through, he looks past that. He sees me with a genuine heart for love for people. He sees beauty, something I still don't see in myself. I don't feel beautiful, even when he tells me all the time I am. I don't put on all this makeup. I don't wear clothing that people would consider sexy. You don't need to put on makeup to feel beautiful. You're beautiful just the way you are. You're handsome the way you are. You don't have to change your appearance for anybody. God made you the way you were meant to be. And you're not alone that if you feel like you're not beautiful or handsome. I feel that way all the time still. I don't feel beautiful. But this is the way God created me to be. And I had to realize that when I go off on myself, I hurt God too. And sometimes I have to slap myself, like, stop saying that, Hannah, because you're hurting God. Because He created you, and you're just hurting His feelings. And I had to remind myself of that. And I'm still a work in progress. But God has healed a lot ever since I went through what I went through. And He's going to continue to heal me and use me for whatever purpose He wants to use me for. And that's just that. Um, Sorry, it seems like I've been talking for so long, but I hope that whoever's been listening, I hope that this helped you. Um, that you don't feel like you're alone in your life. Um, I know we don't know each other, but if you feel like you need to talk to somebody out here, we can talk. I'm not a certified counselor, but I will be a friend because that's what I want to be. I want to be just a friend to help another friend who's been through what I've been through, and we help each other. And to know that you are safe and you're loved and you're important, and that I'm not going to share anything that whatever you say is confidential and you're safe. But if somebody is hurting you, if somebody is harming you in any way, please tell somebody you trust. And don't worry about if you're going to get the person in trouble. The person who is hurting you needs to get in trouble for what they are doing. It is unacceptable. No child, no adult should ever have to be abused. And if you're a child who is going through or has been through abuse, you are not alone. Go to somebody you trust and talk to them. Get help. Talk about your feelings. Don't just bottle it up. And don't let somebody tell you that you're not allowed to talk about it. Because yes, you are allowed. You have every right to talk about how you are feeling. You have every right to let out any emotion. It is healthy to let out anger in a safe way, in a healthy way. It's okay to cry. It is okay to feel sad. It is okay to feel overwhelmed. But when you are feeling those type of feelings, talk to God. Talk to somebody you trust. Lean on God. That should be a time of more leaning towards Him if you can't trust somebody. He listens, He's there, He sees it all, whether you believe it or not. And if you don't believe in God, then go outside and look at nature. Look at the every details of the trees, the animals that you see. That just didn't happen by chance. There is a creator who created all this, who created every single perfect detail on you, who formed you in your mother's womb, who who sees all your flaws and imperfections, all your sins, all the things that you think that is unforgivable. God's not going to leave you stranded. God's not going to leave you broken. He's not going to leave you by yourself. He's going to carry you. He's going to carry you to the end. Give your burdens, give all your pain, all your sadness, all everything that's holding you back, and give it to him. Just let it go. Let him carry it for you because he loves you. He died for you. He died for me. And he rose again. He defeated death. They crucified a perfect man. They hated him. And yet he still loves you so much. If he didn't love you, he wouldn't have died on the cross for us. He paid the debt that we owed. We deserve death. We deserve to go to hell, but he is trying to save us from that. And that's why we must repent and die to self daily and carry our cross to live for him. No, it's not easy. It's not easy living for him. But it's so worth it in the end. If you haven't been baptized in Jesus' name, I pray that you seek an apostolic church who baptizes in Jesus' name and they preach the truth and you get the truth. I pray that you will heed to what I'm saying, and I also pray that you take time to listen and realize that what you see, you don't understand what people are going through. And if you have unforgiveness, if you have any ill will towards anybody, let it go. Just let it go. Because it's only going to hurt you more than them. I forgive my birth father. I forgive the foster system what they did. Even if they think they did nothing wrong. But they have. But they have to realize that. But it's up to them if they want to take into account what they did. I know what they did. God knows what they did. And they can't deny that. They can't deny that to God. But I hope you all have a blessed day. And I pray that if you find this video, that I love you and God loves you. And talk to somebody. reach out to people because you never know what they're going through. I love you. God loves you. God bless you. Bye.